All right, we are live here in the virtual sports bar, Sports Radio 950 KJR 12th man post-game show. Slickhawk here with Jason Puckett, a.k.a. I guess Brian Bosworth. He's got all the old school stuff here. Seahawks winning 31-23. Now 4-0, a start they haven't had since Super Bowl, baby. Let's go back. God, I love that, Jack. That's a good one.
It doesn't fit. It's a little tight.
Just across the chest a little bit, but you've been working out. That's why.
Well, it's baby fat, Matt. My mom
like it.
Eventually will go away.
How are you? Okay. Oh, my God. I'm great, man. 4-0. Look at this.
It was one factor fiction if Russell Wilson didn't throw an interception, so that's the only thing I want to talk about during this post-game show. Right on the damn number, 54.
How do they do it?
They're unbelievable. Every week they get it right. But
right on.
Never doubt about this game. Never a doubt.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned, but look, it's a game that featured some things that were not. Yes, Reggie, it was. Your heart fluttered a little bit, probably. Look, it's a game that featured some things a little different. This game. I mean, Tyler Lockett doesn't make a catch until 8.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. You have a Russell Wilson interception, like you already mentioned, and kind of a crucial moment there in the beginning of the second half. But also a game where you see the defense really kind of ball out and prevent them for the Dolphins from getting in the end zone, except they're at the end, which I would call that a little bit of garbage time, a little bit of trash yards, maybe the first time that's actually been the case so far. But I thought a complete game from the Seahawks team, even if it wasn't necessarily dominant when you want it to be on the you got bring them on the offensive end. But no, it ends up a 31-23 win, and the Seahawks go on the road and get to 4-0.
Yeah, I mean the trash yards. I mean, yeah, okay. At the end, my only counter to that would be, you're right. I mean, towards the end for sure. But I think that they were doing that all game long. It's just that they finally capitalized in the red zone. I mean, they were just they were depending on field goals the entire time. So I mean, I think you feel a little bit better. I mean, obviously the 2 interceptions make you feel better. That was a great first one with Benson Mayowa, and then Cody Barton, and then and then that interception by Neal. But I think you feel a little bit better about how they played. But I mean, come on, Miami offensively is hot garbage.
You come in, and we bring Dick Fain in too down underneath us. The Patriots outside Julian Edelman.
No pants, I contend, wearing no pants.
Well, that's just every week here on the 12th man postgame show. That's how we do it in the virtual sports bar. We have fun like that. But Dick, a team, the Patriots, they put up points on the Seahawks. They didn't have many weapons outside of Julian Edelman and Cam's legs. So kind of similar with the Miami offense. They don't have a ton of big-time weapons either, but they don't find the end zone until Fitzpatrick carries it in what I would call kind of garbage time. First of all, a big game ball to KJ Wright. He was everywhere today. But, Dick, what you saw from the defense today looked a little bit different. No big plays over the top. Held them to 3s, not 6s, and it results in a win for the Seahawks.
Zero complaints, guys, on the defensive side of the football. I mean, you go on the road, longest trip in the NFL. It's 88 degrees with 65% humidity, and you don't give up a touchdown, essentially. I mean, essentially, They didn't give up a touchdown. Okay, they gave up one with 2 minutes left to go in the game when they were up by 2 scores. I mean, there is not a Seahawk fan that wouldn't have taken that scenario if that was presented to them 5 minutes before this game kicked off. I thought this was going to be a tough game. I mean, I really did. I mean, Slick, I told you last week in the post-game show that we were doing together, I said, man, I think at the time it was like 6.5. Dolphins were 6.5 underdogs. I was like, long trip, you're banged up, you got 3 defensive starters out. I lean towards Miami with that. And the Seahawks did a hell of a job on the defensive side. If they just want to play bend but don't break football all season long and give up somewhere between 20 and 25 points a game, they're going to win 13 games doing it. They will win 13 freaking games giving up 20 to 25 points a game.
It's fine as long as they truly don't break, and they didn't do that. And Puckett, I mean, just the injuries that they came into this game with, which, by the way, Ryan Neal's really making a name for himself with his defense, definitely a capable backup. But the injuries that come in, it's hard to find complaints with the way they played and just giving up 5 field goals and finally a touchdown at the end of the game. even with the offensive struggles, you kept them in enough to where the offense, you knew they would eventually figure it out there in the second half. And then they do that with Russell Wilson, once again, has a drive right when you need it and caps that off.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, I hear what you guys are saying about the defense, but I would just say this, like, I don't feel any better about it. I mean, yes, did they play better? Did they, like, to Dick's point, did they not? They only gave up, like, field goals, and it was a garbage touchdown at the end, but I still feel the same way about them. I mean, that's not a good offense. That's just not. That's a bad – I mean, come on. I mean, no disrespect. Ryan Fitzpatrick and Myles Gaskin and some guy named Parker and Ford. I mean, it's not good. So, I mean, but, yes, they held in the field goals. To Dick's point, you want that on the road for sure.
Well, Puck, I would say this, though. I mean, all week long, we were hearing – well, it's going to be 38-31. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to get his, man. He looked great last game out 10 days ago. He was all over the place. He's going to get some with his legs. He's going to throw 2, maybe even 3 touchdown passes. I mean, that's what I heard all week long, is that the Miami Dolphins were going to score 30, and the Hawks were going to have to put up their 35-40 to make sure they got this game done. And that just wasn't the case today. So I mean, to your point, they're not a top half of the NFL offense. I will completely agree.
It's only
they aren't necessarily dangerous. I mean, Jacksonville saw how dangerous they were last Thursday.
Softy's joining us. Softy's
less than what their season average is.
Softy's joining us. The Seahawks have been a top of the league offense. It was different today, though, Softy. He had no Tyler Lockett until halfway through the fourth quarter. They had to do things a little bit differently. Russell Wilson throws a touchdown, real long, stagnant part there in the second half. A lot of long, sustained drives instead of quick hitters, but they're able to still put up their 30-plus points, 31 on the board. It ends up being enough with the effort they got from the defense. Were you happy? Were you pleased with what the offense did, even though it's against a team like Miami? And what the hell's on your head?
First of all, how do you know it's me? Did someone give this away? Make your behind this mask. This is a pandemic post-game show. We have to keep up appearances like Brian Schottenheimer sitting in the booth by himself, wearing a mask, showing the optics, showing the right thing to do. So I appreciate that from Brian. But here's my first thought on this game. You're 4-0 for the second time in franchise history.
Hell yeah.
You've never been our life. All of us are lifelong Seahawks fans. Puck, Fane, Slick, yourself, myself. We've never seen 5-0, and we got a chance to do that at home next Sunday against Minnesota. Second of all, go back to 2013. Remember the Rams game on Monday night? They barely won. The Tampa Bay game, they're down 21-0. The road to the Super Bowl is not a straight, comfortable line. It's full of jagged edges and ups and downs. And today was a game that the Seahawks did not play particularly well. In some cases on both sides of the ball. Lockett didn't even show up until the fourth quarter. Defense did not have a great day, and the defense probably is not going to be very good the entire year, by the way. But to win a game like this in that fashion, in that weather, to go 4-0 with the Dolphins having the extra couple of days off, everybody talking about it being a trap game. Dude, they're up 31-15 with 4 minutes to go in the game, for God's sakes. They're up 16 points. They're up 2 touchdowns with 4 minutes to go in the game. There's not a part of me at all that would have taken that before this game, or that would have turned that down before this game started. So I want to give one quick shout out, by the way, to a guy that I was really wondering about how he was going to perform as a coach when the Seahawks drafted DK Metcalf. You guys remember Millen on draft night was going bananas.
Oh, yeah.
DK Metcalf is great. It's going to be awesome. And my reaction was, well, who the hell is going to coach this guy? Pete Carroll's son, Nate, has done a tremendous job with this wide receiver core, not just Metcalf, but Lockett, Freddie Swain, David Moore is stepping up and having maybe the best start of his NFL career. So quick shout out, quick fist bump to Nate Carroll, Pete Carroll's son. Probably got the job because his last name's Carroll, but he's obviously proving now he deserves that job. He's been coaching up these wide receivers. So look, dude, I don't know what the hell you guys are arguing about. We're 4-0 for the second time in franchise history, and you won a game on the road that previous teams probably would have. Today is a good day. 4-0, baby.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. It's the 4-0 dance. No, and Dick Fane's absolutely right. There's not a lot to complain about. It's hard to complain when you're 4-0. It's hard to complain when you win any game on the road. David Moore, I'm glad you brought that name up, Softy. David Moore is a player who, I mean, in the back of my mind, he was always just kind of meh, whatever. But he's shown up this year in some big spots, really showed up today in the stat line. He's your number 2 wide receiver behind DK Metcalf. Just another target for Russell Wilson. So I don't know if it's Wilson making these guys go or Brian Schottenheimer making them successful, but Puckett, this aerial game once again, Russell Wilson well over 300 yards in the game, only a couple touchdowns because of the interception too, but it's a passing game that is working and carrying the mail for the Seahawks.
Well, you look how different they are this year, which is so weird to think about this being a Pete Carroll team. Is I don't think I would have seen, I think, a Pete Carroll led team in which when he has the ball with a lead, I think it was 17-9, 1st and goal, and he doesn't run the ball one time. First and goal, up by 17-9, and they ended up throwing the interception right in the end zone, and then. That's the bad. And then the good, with the game on the line, with 6 minutes to go, you got to run the clock out. You think that would be classic Pete Carroll? We're going to feed the ball. Chris Carson, what do? They come out throwing. They run a hurry-up offense. My God, the touchdown to Moore is on a hurry-up play.
Well, that was because there was guys coming out off the field.
Yeah, it's so weird to see the difference, though, with this team offensively, that they have changed completely their philosophy, 180.
I appreciate it, Puck. Dick, to kind of build on that, look, we've been preaching for years and begging them, go tempo. And we see other teams take advantage of defenses making substitutions. Aaron Rodgers does it all the time. But the fact that these Seahawks, Russell Wilson, Brian Schottenheimer, Pete Carroll hasn't prepared at a moment's notice, they can go like that and they can go up tempo a little bit at different times. Really, really successful now, and we're seeing it pay off for this offense.
Well, Russell's a maestro, and he showed it right there on that play. When they were hurrying up, because the Dolphins were completely out of sync in there. And if that's any other situation, if the Dolphins have their defense set, they're probably not throwing a pass into the end zone there. They're probably running the ball. They're trying to get a few yards. But, I mean, the Dolphins were that's exactly when you take advantage and try to go for the jugular when you've got like 5 guys have no idea where they're supposed to be on the defensive side of the football. But, I mean, for the most part, late, fourth quarter, I like the balance. Early in the game, it was pretty good. In the beginning of the third quarter, it was rough, including what Puck was mentioning there with the 3 plays in a row. I mean, I can't believe it either. 1st and 6, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 6 pick. All 3 pass plays. I mean, there was a point there where the first 11 plays of the second half, Carson had run it 5 times for 33 yards. Russell Wilson was 2 of 6 with an interception and a sack. So, I mean, the cooking isn't always going to work. So you got to know, when the cooking's not working, you got to be able to go, shift it into a different gear. And Carson was able to rip some runs there in the early stage of the fourth quarter, and they were able to balance it a little bit more in the second and in the fourth quarter of the game.
Real quick, Puckett, one more, and I'll let you get on with your Sunday.
You're addressing me, Softy, not you.
Travis Homer, DJ Dallas. Can we finally make that flip flop there in the depth chart?
Please.
Well, we were exchanging texts throughout the game. All right, I no more Travis Homer. No more, none. Give it to DJ Dallas. Allow Dallas to be the guy moving forward. Wait
a second, Pucky, you're telling me you don't like the East-West Travis Homer just jet around the end for 40 yards? You don't like those play calls?
The only thing I like is his mouth guard. The mouth guard is the only thing that I like.
All right, Puckett, thanks for jumping on with us here in the virtual sports bar on the 12-man post-game show. Here with Softy, here with Dick Fain. Hugh Millen's going to be coming in here in just a couple minutes. Softy, I know you wanted to jump in more a little bit on the offense and what they're doing with Russell Wilson.
No, I just think, as Dick said, that not every meal is going to be a great one, right? There's going to be some average meals that Russell Wilson's going to slap together. And as we talked about earlier in the week, I just think the bottom line is that the Seahawks know they're going to have to switch up their offensive philosophy, a little bit because of how bad their defense is. And I have no problem with that. I mean, the thing that surprised me, guys, is that Miami went for that field goal late in the fourth quarter instead of going for it on 4th down. I thought that was a horrible mistake by Brian Flores because, let's face it, Seahawks did exactly what they were hoping to avoid, which is score a touchdown and make it a 9-point game. And the game at that point was virtually over. So my question to you guys is this: if the Seahawks don't get that first down near midfield on the last drive of the game, I'm going for it. If it's 4th and
100%.
I'm going for it, and I'm ending the game right there. I absolutely would have felt more comfortable with my offense, Dick, picking up 4th and 6 inches than my defense stopping Miami from their 15-yard line.
Absolutely. I mean, you would think 4th and inches is 80% chance of getting a first down there and ending the football game. And I'm sure that the analytics folks would agree with you on that. I mean, I don't think there's an NFL analytics guy anywhere that would say punting the ball from midfield in that situation is better than, win percentage wise, better than punting it down to the 10-yard line or 15-yard line.
Yeah.
The numbers that the Seahawks. Oh, go ahead, Softy.
Go ahead.
A number the Seahawks have coming in against the run. It's easy to say, hey, teams are throwing, they're not running as much again. But the number one rusher for the Miami Dolphins today was Ryan Fitzpatrick, the quarterback, and he's not exactly Michael Vick back there. So 10 carries, 40 yards for Myles Gaskin, their new bell cow. That's it. Once again, another game, and we're a quarter of the way through the season now. So maybe we're seeing a Seahawks defense. Yeah, they give up a lot through the air, and that causes teams to throw more, not run as much. But also, I think we're seeing what they did last week with Ezekiel Elliott. And then today, we're seeing a trend now. Defense, Softy, actually good against the run, I think.
Well, I think they're better. There's no question about that. But I think you just hit the nail on the head right there. The teams are going to continue to chuck the ball against them because they've proven they can't stop the pass consistently. So we'll see what happens when the Seahawks do find, a consistent pass rush. I'm still concerned about their cover corners. I think Ugo Amadi, actually, until that 4th quarter when Shaq stepped up, was the best cover corner they had in the entire game. And Trey Flowers, to me, is just kind of non-existent. I'm not even sure what that guy brings to the football team right now. So I'm waiting for Jamal Adams to come back, waiting for Dunbar to come back. And I think people need to remember that in specific to today's game, the 2 biggest offseason acquisitions I think we all agree they made to help the secondary were Quentin Dunbar and Jamal Adams, and neither guy played today, okay? And they're up 31-15 with 4 minutes to go in the game. Listen, I got a piece out. You have no idea how uncomfortable this freaking helmet is to wear on my head. Having a drink. I'm going to watch the Niners tonight. Seahawks are 4-0. 5-0 next week. One more. You can take a break and a bye and enjoy 5-0 for the first time in your life. So Seahawks had a big win today. We'll talk soon. See you.
Appreciate it, Softy.
Let's get a fly Eagles fly out of you, Softy. Let's get a fly Eagles fly for tonight, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure his producer.
Eagles fly.
Yeah.
Take this helmet. It's squishing my brain. See ya.
That's
another maestro in here conducting.
Slick. Really the only time all season long that I've looked at the pass defense and said I can't tolerate what I'm seeing. Really, two instances come to mind, and none of them were today. The first instance was Julian Edelman. I mean, it's like, dude, they've got one receiver on the team. Yeah. Come on, right? And he's just constantly open 25 yards down the middle of the field. That was the first time. And then the second time was the 3rd quarter. Remember the 3rd quarter of the Cowboy game? It was Gallup over the top, CeeDee Lamb over the top. I think they hit all 3 of them. Cooper over the top. Like 3 times they got beat deep down the sidelines. Other than that, all season long, I feel like it's kind of looked like today. It's like 6-yard stump to the running back, 9-yard dunk over the middle of the tight end. Okay, maybe a receiver catches a little hook route for 12 yards and he gets tackled. And you know what? I can live with that all season long if you stiffen up in the red zone and only give up, 1 or 2 touchdowns a game.
Well, that's it. The teams that they played against the first 3 weeks, they get to the 20-yard line, but it's offenses that you feel like from there can still go and score touchdowns, and they were kind of doing that. Even the Patriots, because they have Julian Edelman. This offense didn't feel that way. I mean, this was truly okay. Pete Carroll talks about the rope-a-dope, right? And so we're just gonna let you punch yourself out, wear yourself out, getting yards that don't matter between the 20s. Okay. But we're going to keep you out of the end zone. Today, they were able to actually keep them out of the end zone. And again, I point to the play of KJ Wright and how instrumental he was. And he just ending drives by being showing up huge in the passing game. Ugo Amadi, another nice game today. Shaq Griffin at times showing up and making some big plays, separating balls from defenders. So back there in the secondary, which has been depleted by injury. I think a good job today in not giving up any big plays, keeping them out of the end zone, and that's what it's about on the defense. When you have an offense like they've been humming, that's going to score you 30 plus points a game, that can be enough.
Absolutely. And I think really the only part of this defense, when we get back to what we've been talking about for the last 6 months, the only part of this defense that really worries me long-term is the front four getting to the quarterback. I mean, that's really the only worry that I have. And so I want to see Alton Robinson get healthy. I want to see Darrell Taylor get healthy. I want to see Jordan Brooks get healthy. I want to see some of these young guys, because you've got a buffer right now. You're 4-0. You've got a buffer. You don't have to panic and go make a trade right now. You know, if you were 2-2 and you're like, oh man, the only really bad thing about this team is the pass rush, then you might have to panic and say, okay, we need help right now. But you have what do you have till the trade deadline? 4 more weeks?
At least.
4 more weeks.
You've got time.
Until the trade deadline, you've got time to see what those young guys are going to offer, and then you can go make a trade if you need to bring a pass rusher in. Because I think you get Jamal Adams some more reps in this defense. He didn't have a training camp. He didn't have preseason games. He gets a little bit better understanding of what this defense is trying to do. You get Ugo Amadi more reps. Hey, Shaq Griffin today, you alluded to it. He knocked away 2 touchdown passes. 2 touchdown passes. I mean, there are few corners in the league that are better at that. Get your arm around the offensive player and knock away that football at the last minute. He is tremendous at that. He obviously learned from the school of Sherman, and Sherman taught him how to do that. And he has been very, very good at that, and has knocked away some very, very pivotal plays. I mean, who knows what happens if they get that touchdown, beginning of the fourth quarter that Shaq knocked away and forced him into a field goal. If
you had asked me Friday, I think somebody did, in fact, ask me Friday, who's going to be more likely to start at running back, Chris Carson or Carlos Hyde? At that point, I would have told you Carlos Hyde. He ends up inactive because of the shoulder. Chris Carson, miraculously, starts the game, ends up with 80 yards on the ground, 16 carries. That was enough for what they needed to do on the ground. The rest of it, Russell and doing his thing through the air. DK Metcalf, another 100-plus yard game. Yes, he's going to have drops here and there. I think that's just something we're learning we're going to have to live with DK Metcalf. A Pro Bowl receiver, the one that he got popped on and the ball came out. For me, a Pro Bowl receiver needs to make that catch. I just think that we're just gonna have to live with those from DK. But another 100-yard performance from him, and he's on track for 1,600 plus whatever yards that you guys talked about on your show. I know earlier this week. Just what we're seeing out of DK and how much fun it is to watch just a passing offense that has a true monster like him.
It's funny that you said 100 yards, and I was like, wow, really? I had to check the box score when you said that, because I had to realize he actually hit. It was a quiet 106 yards, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that the, and we talk about it in basketball all the time, right? When the great players have a quiet 27-12, and you're like, wow, I didn't even realize that they did that. I mean, that's what DK Metcalf's becoming, where he has 106 yards, and you're like, yeah, he wasn't a huge factor in the game, and he still had over 100 yards receiving. Yes, I mean, this guy, we thought we were in that 1,100 to 1,200 yard range. That was kind of our window, and about 10 touchdowns for DK Metcalf when we were kind of predicting his numbers at the beginning of the season. But you're right. I mean, he's still on pace for 1,600. He's probably going to be more if he stays healthy, knock on wood. I mean, probably more into that 1,100 yard range, which is, top 3 in the league type production.
And can I get another knock on wood, by the way? We're quarter of the way through the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe Jason Myers has missed a kick, by the way. Field goal, extra point, whatever it is. So it just, all things are kind of cooking for this. 4-0 doesn't happen very often. Only one other time in franchise history. It happens today down in Miami. Now you get some home cooking Sunday Night Football as we attempt to bring in Hugh Milne. We'll have him here in a second for his kind of analysis as we wrap up here in the virtual sports bar. But this, God, it's a cool feeling. I mean, it's so different. You remember 2013 and the Super Bowl season, the beginning of the season was so dominant. The second half of the season felt like a coronation because you knew exactly where this team was going just because they were so dominant defensively. I mean, they just suffocated teams. This is a 100% polar opposite. I don't have the same feeling that I had then, but I am enjoying being 4-0.
Well, I mean, we need to go back and remember the 2013 season and how pissed off we were at the offense, right? I mean, Rams game on Monday Night Football, Titans game at home, Tampa Bay game that they were down big. I mean, there were a lot of games where if in right at this time of the year, October 4th of 2013, and you would have said, is this offense really good enough to win a Super Bowl? I think a majority of Seahawk fans would have said no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't want to have revisionist history and just look back to 2013 and be like, oh man, they just blew everybody out. And that was not the occasion at all, because they had a lot of offensive problems. And I think you're right. It's the polar opposite right now, where the offense is clearly Super Bowl championship quality, just like the defense was clearly Super Bowl championship quality in 2013. So this year's offense is that year's defense. Can this year's defense pick it up at the second half of the season and become average to above average like that offense was able to do? Because the 2013 offense did not start to get cooking until very late in the season.
Exactly. It's just such a different feel, but I think it's more fun well, I don't know. Suffocating teams, snuffing them out, holding them, shutting them out, and all that and everything, defensive, pounding them into the ground. I loved that too. But this is just, I mean, this is 2020, man. This is like this is like the surfer, the hair down. This is all of it. You're hanging 10 and putting up points on guys. So that's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying this and watching Russell Wilson be the quarterback that we've known for years and years and years that Russell Wilson could be, and everybody in the league kind of waiting around for it. But you're seeing it now. He's getting the opportunity, and it's not just the fact that they're dialing up more passing plays or whatever it is. We already talked about the tempo, but different, unique stuff. Last week when you have Hollister line up as a fullback and leak out, this week, a lot of teams, they run that jet sweep where you kind of toss it. And we hadn't really seen that with Russell Wilson. He did that today with David Moore, where you toss the jet sweep and was able to do that. We saw what you might call a tunnel screen or a bubble screen. I'm sure Hugh correct me on it later, but with DK Metcalf late in the game, got first down, you're on a drive, you want to seal the game and just throw it out to DK, and he takes it down for 34 yards down to the 2-yard line where you could punch it in with Chris Carson. So this shift to the offense hasn't just been, well, let's just dial up more pass plays. It's actually been innovative, which is something that we didn't know, or we questioned whether or not we would get that from Brian Schottenheimer.
Absolutely. It has been. And it's not, we're not at Kyle Shanahan mode yet with, fake fly sweep here, this guy going there, and all the pre-snap stuff. But you're right. It's a lot more innovative than it has been in the past. And a lot of that is just, it's a number of factors. It's Russell, more trust in Russell Wilson as he gets deeper and deeper into his career, and he masters. He's really now he's got a master's degree in offense. He might even have, he's approaching PhD as far as his knowledge of the offense. There's no question about that. He didn't have that 2 or 3 years ago. You didn't have the weapons 2 or 3 years ago. You had Tyler Lockett, and that was it. And really, for Tyler Lockett's first 3 or 4 years of his career, as I have noted many, many times on the air, was very mediocre until he broke free. And now you've got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, where you truly have two, top 15 at least wide receivers in the NFL, and you might be able to tilt your head and say they're two top 10 wide receivers in the NFL as far as just talent goes. And
they complement each other well, and then you have the tight ends that they kind of fit in where they do as well. I know we're bringing in Hugh Millen here, and we're going to bring in Jackson Feltz as well. Dick, I want you to be able to get on with your Sunday as well, too. So just as we bring in Jackson, any final thoughts that you have on this game and on this team being 4-0?
Yeah, I'm going to put my phone down because, in the fourth quarter, you still have freaked out Seahawk fans that don't remember that they've won like 54 games in a row when leading by 4 at halftime, 4 more at halftime. And the win percentage never got below 94.8% that entire stretch there at the end of the game. But it's just, and maybe that's just typical NFL football fans, that they believe that the worst is always going to happen. And we just have to remind people that this isn't your normal NFL football team. This is a football team that just flat out finds ways to win games. And sometimes not even as easy as this game was eventually won. And it's just a joy, man. It's a joy to watch this team play each and every week. We need to cherish what we have right now, because we know what it's like to have a mediocre team. At least folks like us, Jackson and you and me, realize. Those folks that hey, God bless you. If you jumped on the wagon in 2012, you really don't know what it means to have a mediocre or a bad football team. But we know what it means to be 4-12, to be 5-11, to be 6-10. We've seen it many, many times before.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
40 years. So enjoy what you have. You are 4-0 on the season, and you've allowed yourself a lot of room for error right now, and a lot of room to kind of, if you need to rest Jamal Adams next week, rest him and give him 2 more weeks in the bye week. If you want to tweak and try Alton Robinson here at this position, try Shaq Griffin in this position, try Jordan Brooks over here. You got a little room for error where you don't have to go, oh my God, we're 2-2 in the toughest division in football, and we're in trouble unless we win like 3 games in a row. You're not in that position right now. Everybody's chasing you. So good stuff. Hawks are 4-0. Great stuff. Jackson, we'll talk to you on Monday. Slickhawk, we'll talk to you on Monday.
Appreciate it, Dick. Thanks for jumping on here in the virtual sports bar. We bring in Jackson Feltz now. Jackson, usually when you're doing post game, it's Sounders, so a different football here today. But nonetheless, a 4-0 team. We saw a defense where KJ Wright just kind of took this bull by the balls on this one. He showed up everywhere. If I'm handing out game balls, the first one is going to KJ, which is interesting because a team that's been so maligned by defense, I think he was the biggest standout player by his play. Maybe not by numbers, but by play today. I want to get your thoughts on how he and the defense played.
Well, first off, KJ Wright's going to play until he's 50 years old. I think that's well established at this point. God, the guy just when you think he's going to take a step back, he takes 2 steps forward. Just an epic game today. My game ball on the defensive side is going to Shaq Griffin, Shaquille Griffin, I should say, Keel. The game that he had, not only the interception, but the pass breakups. He breaks up a touchdown pass, I believe, Devontae Adams at that point, late in that game when it was still, I believe, 17-12. A very, very nerve-wracking moment in that game at that point. So for me, Keel was absolutely fantastic today. And, it's like we saw, him take a kind of a step back here over the start of this season. So to see Griffin be able to have this type of a game and really put together a couple back-to-back really good games, that's huge for him. So that's for my guy. And then on the offensive end, it's funny when you see DK Metcalf have another down moment like he had, dropping an obvious pass. And it wasn't in a big moment situation. It wasn't going for a touchdown or anything. But then he comes back and has monster plays. He catches the same route the next play. And then late in that game, that play down the sideline that sets up Chris Carson's 1-yard touchdown where he's able to stay in bounds so many times. And I think last year we saw that as well. He'll fumble in those plays, or he'll lose track of where he's holding the ball or something like that. For him to just stay and nearly get in, God, I wish he did. It's huge to see DK Metcalf making those strides, learning from his small mistakes, and continuing to make huge plays down the stretch of games.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier in the show with DK, I think we're just going to have to get used to seeing some drops here and there. Tiger Woods, I would say, was probably the most mentally tough competitor I've seen in the sports arena. I would say DK maybe is on a little bit of the opposite spectrum of that. And so he has to have extra focus kind of as he goes along. But we're watching him grow up as an NFL receiver and as a pro. And so, again, like I said earlier, and I tweeted out, for a Pro Bowl receiver, I want to see him haul that in when he gets popped. He doesn't on that play. But you are seeing, you're right, last year in the Niners game, he's going down the sidelines, guys trying to get at the ball. He's got the mind to try and get in the end zone, ends up coughing it up and costing the team. Today, not so much. He uses that size and physicality, but he hangs on to the ball, tiptoes down the sideline, damn near scores, but it sets up Chris Carson for the game sealing touchdown. So that was really good to see as well. And as we're trying to get Hugh in online as well. And Hugh, do we have you? Let me know if we have you.
Yeah, I'm here if you can hear me.
Yeah, we got you, Hugh. Thanks for coming on here in the virtual sports bar. A 4-0 team here in Seattle. We were just talking about DK. This offense, it wasn't typically what we've seen. There were some drives that sputtered out. Russell Wilson throws an interception. There was a period of time there where the offense was a little stagnant, not putting points on the board. But toward the end of the game, when you needed some scores, they were able to get it going. And Russell Wilson once again comes through when it's necessary that he do so.
Well, yeah, I think that they obviously they went down to the running game far more. And I think it was in an effort to adjust to the conditions and try and keep the defense off the field. And so you saw a lot more of Chris Carson, but in the end, Wilson still ends up having 34 attempts. It just hasn't been quite what we had. It's a nice day when you're considering that Wilson in the passing game was off and yet still yielded 360 yards of passing and 112 passer rating. Mm-hmm. But I think that they found something with Chris Carson that they felt was a symbiotic relationship between the running game and what they had to do defensively.
It's balance, really. I mean, when it all boils down to it, isn't it, Hugh? Where when you can throw when you need to throw, you can run when you need to run, and it's all efficient enough and can lead to a 31-point performance by the offense.
Well, yeah, it really is. I mean, if you're looking at just the numbers, 26 rush attempts, again, the 34 pass attempts, but it, you had to feel like there was a conservatism there in the third quarter. I think that they probably talked about at halftime trying to shorten the game, and that's something that Carroll has typically done throughout the years, and we just haven't seen it much this year.
When Pete Carroll talks, I mean, we hear all the Pete Carrollisms, and we kind of read between the lines. I think we've learned by now, if there's something that upsets Pete or bothers him probably the most by his defense and a bad performance, it's letting big plays happen over the top, and they've happened all three games leading into today. You didn't really see big plays over the top. There were some kind of in the middle of the field. I feel like Pete Carroll is okay with that stuff as long as you're not letting them into the end zone too, kind of keeping things in front of them. What did you see from the defense today that was different, week 1, 2, and 3, where you didn't allow those big plays?
Well, they've really remade themselves in terms of what they used to be. They used to be a single safety defense, and in those single safeties, whether they're playing man-to-man or whether they're playing a zone, the cornerbacks have to defend the widest receiver in the formation, what defenses call the number one receiver. And that's not what we would commonly call as fans. You'd say, well, the number one receiver is their best receiver, whether it's Lockett or Metcalf, whomever you think. The defense just, in the manner that I'm describing, number one is the guy closest to the sideline, and then you count your way in. Number 2, then number 3 is closest to the ball. And so what they're doing is they're redirecting the number one receivers by the corners, but the corners themselves frequently do not have deep responsibility. They're redirecting the receivers at the line of scrimmage, and then they have the go routes. And so, but that yielded them vulnerable to a play that Fitzpatrick hit over and over and over again, what's called a fin route, a little 5-yard in route, where you go at the corner, get him to back off, and then you break away from the corner. Well, the corner, he still has to stay in outside area, the flat area, to defend a concept called smash, where if the slot receiver, the number 2, were to run a corner in behind him, mm-hmm. he's got to be in a position to get underneath that. So when all those times where you see Trey Flowers, when Fitzpatrick was throwing to his left and he was throwing all those little 5, 6, 7-yard in routes, in your mind's eye, you probably saw a lot of those today, right?
Sure.
And the corner is trailing it. But as I said, most of those times the corner has that flat and he has to sink up, so he cannot drive on that. It's actually the next defender in on the zone, what's called the curl zone defender, as opposed to the flat defender. And so, Fitzpatrick's been at it for a long time, and he was able to hit those. But in the end, it was just 315 yards. And given that you were giving up 430 going in the game, that was a step in the right direction.
Hugh, one more for you. I want to talk real quick about David Moore, because I'm just seeing a little bit different out of him than I've seen in past years. He was always kind of an afterthought to me, just kind of a meh in terms of this wide receiver core. And I'm not saying that, he's the next Bobby Ingram or anything like that, but I think he's shown up in a couple of games, including today. Your number 2 receiver, 95 yards and a touchdown, including that long one. And so what have you seen from David Moore here in the first quarter of the season that's maybe a little bit different than we've seen in the David Moore of past years?
Well, I've been a little bit surprised. He's made plays when he's had an opportunity. You go back to the New England game, that catch that he had around his hip going into the open end zone, that was a spectacular play. And then today he comes up with 2 big plays. Now both of those, whoever number 23 is for Miami, I mean, good God. But the Dolphins were there. There's a line of delineation for me, and in the quarterback study rooms that I've been through my career, where you're watching your opponent, you're watching the defense, you're trying to find vulnerabilities, you're trying to see both scheme, what do they do, and then personnel, how are you going to attack scheme and personnel. There's a point where you say bad coverage, a line of delineation, bad coverage becomes unsound coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
And unsound coverage just means that you got guys in areas that if they're doing that, even if they execute their assignment perfectly, that's still bad coverage on the whole, because you're just in positions that can be exploited. And so, so Miami was more of the latter today on some of those big plays. David Moore, on both of those David Moore plays, you had corners that acted as if they had a safety on their half of the field. And right, including the touchdown there. If you look at him, he's playing what's called cloud coverage. I just described it, what Trey Flowers was doing, where he has the flat and he assumes that he has a safety over the top. Both of those big plays by David Moore were not just bad coverage, poor coverage. They were unsound.
Okay.
Which is a whole nother level. That's a schematic level of bad. That even if you play it perfectly, you're playing the wrong coverage. And so the Dolphins are struggling. Credit Russell Wilson and the Seahawks for exploiting some of those.
They take advantage. 106 yards, DK Metcalf, 95 yards, and touchdown, David Moore, your 2 leading receivers. You didn't really need Tyler Lockett that much today, but they pull out the win 31-23. Hugh, appreciate you jumping on. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 7:20 for the Monday morning quarterback with Chuck and Buck.
All good, guys. Hammer down.
All right, Jackson, here last few minutes. We're going to see also if we can bring on Curtis Crabtree from I guess, probably in Renton as these things kind of go now, Jackson. But looking ahead a little bit to what the Seahawks have upcoming before their bye week, 2 weeks from now. Minnesota, Sunday Night Football. The Vikings won kind of a shootout today. Kirk Cousins, they came into that game, 0-3 and found a way to pull it out. So, hopefully they're not hitting their stride, but right before playing the Seahawks. But we might be looking at another shootout.
I mean, listen, it's not that they're hitting their stride. Keep in mind the Houston Texans were also 0-3 going into this game. This was a battle of 0-3 teams. So, for this, it was just something had to give. And Houston nearly tied up the game late on a touchdown by Fuller that he dropped. But I love the fact that Minnesota closed that out and got the victory because, I'm a big believer in the psychology of athletes. And for Minnesota, I don't want a 0-4 team coming in here thinking that if we lose, we're done, so we have to win. Now it's a situation where they're 1-3. They just got a really, emotional end of the game, clutch victory. So it's a sort of question where what sort of emotions are the Vikings coming in with? I'd rather have them coming in with a victory, obviously. So I think it's a great situation. And listen, you look at that defense, and it's not a good defense. And I know Harrison Smith got ejected from this game, but it's still not a great defense that Minnesota has. And even then, you're dealing with a guy in Kirk Cousins, a lot like Ryan Fitzpatrick. He may throw for a bunch of yards on you, but he's not going to throw for a lot of he's going to throw for a lot of picks against you. He no longer has Stephon Diggs, who's doing things in Buffalo. If Shaq Griffin continues, we just talked about Griffin. If he continues his great stretch that he's having right now and covers Adam Thielen the way he totally can, that he covered Devontae Parker well today, then the Seahawks should be able to shut it down. All you got to do is make sure you stop Dalvin Cook, because Dalvin Cook's a fantastic running back, and your defensive line's going to have to play their A game.
Well, you did just give 2 really difficult keys to that game. 1, shutting down Adam Thielen. 2, shutting down Dalvin Cook. Do they have the personnel to do it? Maybe. We'll see, I guess. But, it's just – I'm sitting here saying – I have to keep saying to myself the words 4-0, 4-0. Just kind of hard to believe this team – look, of all the Seahawks teams that we've had under the Pete Carroll era, one that you would have pegged to go 4-0, I don't think necessarily would have been this team. This team that we talked all offseason about, oh, no, there's no pass rush. Oh, no, you haven't improved the defensive line. Oh, no, what is the secondary? And then they have all these injuries that they've had. We talk about Jordan Brooks, and you're talking about Quentin Dunbar, and you're talking about Jamal Adams. And you're talking about what happened earlier in the season with Marquise Blair, everything, all the injuries on the defensive side of the football. football, which is the one area you needed to get better, there is absolutely no way I would have sat there at the beginning of the season and thought, possibility to go into the bye week 5-0, but that's exactly what's staring this team in the face. And I mean, we should be elated. I am elated, but you kind of have to stop and smell the roses a little bit and kind of look around and think, what kind of season are we looking at right now?
Well, I mean, I think when we saw that they traded for Jamal Adams way back then, we thought, okay, sky's the limit at this point. Now, Jamal Adams had a couple down games, and, I think you mentioned it earlier. You're looking at a bye week coming up right after Minnesota. If Adams is iffy for Minnesota and it's just a 50-50 thing, just sit him. I think you can get away with not playing him. And if it costs you a game, then so be it. But I want Jamal Adams to be healthy for the rest of the season, because this is a 4-0 team. We are right now in the sights for the Super Bowl right here in an NFC that is wide open. So absolutely you want this team to be as healthy as possible, and that means a healthy Jamal Adams. So keep him healthy, but ultimately, yeah, you're right. We have to just kind of take a moment, celebrate the win, and that comes in the next, 8 hours until we go to bed tonight. But it's come tomorrow. It's focus on doing something that no Seahawks team, Slick, has ever done. 5-0. We were 4-0 only one other time in franchise history, and that was won a freaking Super Bowl championship. Never, ever been 5-0, and that becomes the focus right after the celebration day.
You want to know something that I don't know if has ever happened in franchise history either, that happened today? The Seahawks had no penalties.
No penalties that for yardage against them, because Miami declined a couple, but
right.
Yeah,
so no accepted penalties against them, which is just wild. Pete Carroll, I think, just wrapping up his comments at the podium, and hopefully we can bring in Curtis Crabtree in a minute. No new injuries coming out of this game, so that's some good news, and some news that, this is the first time we've really been able to come out of a game and say that. And you mentioned before too, kind of letting these guys heal up, or Dick had talked about. Maybe this is an opportunity, since you have 4-0 right now. You got 4 games in the pocket. You have a little bit of a cushion. Maybe you can give Jamal Adams that extra week of rest. Maybe you can give Jordan Brooks that extra week of rest. I know a lot of people are going to think along those lines. I don't think any cushion is good enough in this division. I mean, if Jamal Adams is 85%, I say you play an 85% Jamal Adams, and then you let him use the bye week. If you have to rest up before the bye week and then you get those extra 2 weeks, I get it, and that's good, because we're going to need these guys later this season. But just like I think this offense needs to do game in and game out and keep the pedal to the floor, I think this team needs to do that as well in terms of these injuries. You saw it today with Chris Carson, what they did.
Absolutely. Can we talk for a minute about Ryan Neal, by the way?
Oh, my God.
I don't think any of us knew the name
Ryan Neal 2 weeks ago. No!
I mean, he honestly, dude, he looks like a typical Seattle DB that they would have had on their Super Bowl squad. I mean, the way he plays, the physical nature, the way he hits, he is everything you want in a Seattle safety. Yeah, he isn't as refined and he isn't as, technically savvy as the great DBs that we had here in 13 and 14. But Ryan Neal, man, he's looking great. Yeah. And that is why I mentioned sit Jamal Adams, because if he's 50-50 and you want him to be fully healthy after the bye, because I'm seeing a safety in Ryan Neal that I'm comfortable with starting him against the Vikings if you have to.
Well, just that, that hit he made alone, he's right place, right time. He gets the tipped pass from Cody Barton and is able to pluck that out of the air. And so obviously you feel good about him getting his second pick in as many games. I think he's played 8 plays total in his career. He already has 2 interceptions, but just coming downhill with a full head of steam and knocking some guys on their can. That was really cool to see too. That's what you want to see from a safety, strong safety like that. And he brought the thump. It's, you want, when it comes to this defense, and we're going to talk about injuries and everything, of course, with the secondary, but you just want some element of what you used to have in terms of, the swagger, the hard hitting, all of it. And this has been a unit for the last few years. You haven't had a lot of that. They haven't had a ton to be confident in. And, even coming into this game, they haven't much to be confident in. But I think you already talked about Shaquille Griffin and what he did. in terms of what kind of game he played today. I thought it was a good game for him. I thought Ugo Amadi played a good game, and with all the questions, I know Marquise Blair, we were really looking forward to him and his physical nature that he brings to that nickelback position. Ugo Amadi plays it differently, but I've been saying since he was drafted, I'm somebody who watched him game in and game out in college. Ugo Amadi has a knack for being around the ball, and he's a playmaker wherever you put him, either nickel or safety, and he is showing that every single week for the Seahawks.
Amadi is your best cover corner right now. Let's be honest here. I mean, Shaq Griffin's been making plays as well, but Ugo Amadi right now is just fantastic. And Sergeant Pickles made a good point there. He just commented.
That's a sentence he never said before in your life and never thought you'd say.
Exactly. He just said, "Could you try Ryan Neal at corner when Adams comes back?" And I think that skill set of Neal, the hard hitting and just. I mean, I think the awareness also we're seeing out of him, I think it's something that you could try out because, I mean, think about the way that they play with Jamal Adams. They have him blitzing off the corner. So, if you can throw a weird, I mean, we know Pete Carroll is amazing with secondaries. He can create some kind of look where he gets Neal and Adams and Diggs on the field at the same time. He'll figure it out.
Well, we're just about to wrap up here. I mean, the Seahawks 31-23 win. It's a game that, look, I tweeted at halftime, it would take them screwing up to lose it, really. You just never felt like the game was in doubt. Even after the Russell Wilson interception, it's just the Dolphins never seem like really a threat to score. A lot of bend don't break from this defense, but a lot to build on. But just keep saying, look, even if it doesn't feel like it or if it sounds weird to say because it's only happened once before in franchise history, you're 4-0. The team is 4-0. The Seahawks are 4-0, and they're looking to go to 5-0 next Sunday Night Football at home against the Minnesota Vikings before the bye week. Jackson, want to thank you for popping in. Appreciate it, and all your comments and everything along the way. Well, he looks frozen. Okay, no big deal. He was frozen there. Perfectly fine. Want to thank Jackson Feltz. Want to thank Hugh Millen, Dave Softy Mahler, Dick Fain, and Jason Puckett for joining me here in the virtual sports bar, the 12th Man post-game show on Sports Radio 950 KJR, sportsradiokjr.com, and at Sports Radio KJR on Twitter. Also our Facebook page there, Sports Radio KJR, and the 950 KJR YouTube page. I think I got everything out there. All right, we return to live radio tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., the Chuck and Buck Show, where they're going to break it all down. And the Monday morning quarterback, Hugh Millen, comes back on 7:20, 9 o'clock, Mike Holmgren. That's all tomorrow. That just kicks off the coverage all day long, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sports Radio 950 KJR. Till then, I am Slickhawk saying thanks for joining me here in the virtual sports bar for the 12th Man post-game show. 4-0, go Hawks.